You know, there's a common misconception that the boundaries of your life are defined by the zeros in your bank account. But if you look closely at history, at visionaries like Oprah Winfrey, Henry Ford, or Warren Buffett, you realize that's not true at all. The real boundaries are defined by your beliefs. It reminds me of something the philosopher James Allen wrote in his classic book, As a Man Thinketh. He said, quote, "A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts." It sounds simple, doesn't it? Almost too simple. So here is the million-dollar question. If the concept is so straightforward, why do so many people remain stuck in mediocrity? Is it really a lack of opportunity? Or is it a strange kind of blindness to their own worth? Today, I want to share a story with you that solves this puzzle. It offers a perspective that might just alter the trajectory of your life. And since we are here to learn, keep an ear out. We're going to weave in some sophisticated vocabulary to sharpen your English proficiency along the way. Trust me, you'll want to watch this until the very final moment. Consider this video an investment in your future self. Let's travel to the heart of a bustling city. Right near a grand public park, there was a man named Elias. Elias was destitute, homeless, and he was barely surviving. His days were spent soliciting spare change from pedestrians who were rushing by on their lunch breaks. He was invisible to most of them. One afternoon, Elias was sitting there with his empty cup, feeling pretty hopeless, when he spotted a woman walking toward him. And she wasn't just walking, she was walking with purpose. She wore a perfectly tailored coat and carried a leather briefcase that seemed to scream success. She was radiating authority. Elias's mind immediately started racing. He thought, "She looks incredibly wealthy. Surely she won't miss a few dollars. If I can just appeal to her sympathy, she might give me enough for a full meal." Filled with expectation, Elias stepped right into her path. He held out his trembling hand, waiting for the coin. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of reaching for her wallet or looking away, the woman stopped. She looked him directly in the eye, human to human, and asked a very strange question. "I am ready to conduct business, but what is your side of the bargain?" Elias was completely taken aback. He didn't know how to process this. He stammered, "Ma'am, I am just a beggar. I have no goods to sell. I rely on the kindness of strangers just to survive." The woman didn't flinch. Her expression was stern, sure, but it wasn't unkind. She was trying to teach him something. She replied, "If you believe you have no value to offer, then you have no leverage to ask for a reward. Look, I am an investor. I believe in commerce, not charity. If you can provide me with value, I will provide you with payment. But if you bring nothing to the table, we have no deal." And with that, she walked past him and disappeared into the crowd. Elias stood there, frozen on the sidewalk. Her words hit him harder than the hunger in his stomach. He muttered to himself, "She wasn't cruel, but she was brutally honest. I have spent years asking for something for nothing. Perhaps that is exactly why I have nothing." That evening, Elias couldn't sleep. The woman's logic kept replaying in his head like a broken record. Commerce, not charity. He looked around his makeshift shelter in the park. "What do I have?" he thought. "I possess nothing." But then the sun began to rise. the morning light hit the ground near the park's river, and something caught his eye. He noticed the smooth, gray river stones scattered in the mud. They were dirty, sure, but under the grime, they were solid and unique. Suddenly, an idea sparked. What if I stop begging and start trading? What if I offer a symbol of strength in exchange for the coin? Energized by this new sense of purpose, he gathered a dozen stones. He didn't just pick them up. He spent hours scrubbing them in the river, polishing them with an old cloth until they gleamed. He was adding value. The next day, Elias returned to his spot, but this time the vibe was different. He didn't hold out an empty hand. When a passerby looked his way, he smiled and held out a polished stone. "A solid foundation for your day, sir," he would say. To his absolute amazement, the dynamic changed completely. People didn't just drop a coin to get rid of him. They actually stopped. They looked at the smooth stones, smiled, and handed him money in exchange. They weren't giving charity. They were buying a small piece of art. Elias realized a pattern. As long as he had inventory, those polished stones, people paid him with respect. When he ran out, the interactions stopped. "It is true," he whispered. "Dignity comes from exchange." A few days later, that same elegant woman returned. Elias stood up straight. Posture matters, right? "Madam," he called out, "today I have a proposition. If you provide the capital, I will provide a token of resilience." He offered her the smoothest, most perfect stone he had found. She smiled, opened her purse, and handed him a significant bill. "Now," she said, "you are speaking my language. You are no longer a beggar. You are a merchant." The woman boarded her taxi, but her words planted a seed that was ready to grow. Elias looked at the money, then at the stone. "Am I a merchant?" He pondered this deeply. Then it clicked. "I am not asking for help. I am providing a service. I am curating beauty from the dirt. I am an entrepreneur." With this massive shift in identity, he made a bold choice. He left his spot at the park. He didn't spend the money on a lavish meal. He reinvested his earnings into better materials. He never begged again. Flash forward 1 year. Imagine a brightly lit boutique. Inside, there's a man in a crisp apron arranging custom jewelry made from polished river rocks and intricate wire. The door chime rings, and the elegant woman walks in. She looked at the owner and paused, squinting slightly. "Do I know you?" she asked. The man smiled warmly. "We have done business before, near the park. You were my first real investor." The woman gasped, her hand going to her chest. "You are the man with the river stones?" "That was me," Elias laughed. "But today, I am a craftsman. I own this studio, and we ship our designs nationwide." The woman was stunned. "This is miraculous. What caused such a change?" Elias looked at her and replied with total clarity. "You taught me the fundamental rule of economics and life. Value invites wealth. I realized I was only poor because I saw myself as a beggar. Once I saw myself as a provider of value, the world agreed with me." The two shook hands, not as donor and recipient, but as peers. So, what's the lesson here? Your life is essentially a projection of your self-image. If you wake up and see yourself as a victim, you will find injustice around every corner. But if you recognize your capacity to create, you will find opportunity in the unlikeliest places, even in the mud. Do not define yourself by what you lack. Define yourself by what you can give. When you change your internal narrative, you rewrite your external reality. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Leave a comment about your biggest takeaway. I read them. And share this video to empower someone else. I will see you in the next lesson.